Okay, so Mads, we are in Robot War by Silas Warner. Okay, talk to me. What's going on at this point?
So I'm just presented with a lot of text, and I've just selected to start a battle. Let's see if I can pick some robots here.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I'll go with scanner and target and maniac,
Oh,
maybe
sounds
mover as
good.
well. Yeah, yeah. So let's get this party started.
Okay. Now, so what do you so now we're not even going to pretend that you're playing as we're doing this. This is all pre-recorded, but so are you controlling anything at this point?
No, this is a pure simulation, mate. This was the perfect game to pick for me because I'm a developer. I would have loved this as a kid. It's I actually, along with a friend, a couple of years ago, we were actually planning on doing kind of like a modern version for mobile phones of this game,
Hmm.
of building and coding your own robots and just having them battle it out in an arena. So this was brilliant. It's not a game that you can play in 7 minutes, though. You need to set aside a lot more time, and you need to be kind of into your assembly programming, because
Oh, really?
oh yes, oh yes, I'm showing you this later on in this pre-recorded video. So what you're actually meant to be doing, this is just starting the simulation where you pick four of the eight pre-programmed robots,
Hmm.
and then you can see how they actually act. Let's see. We have Scanner in the top right corner right now. What he does is that he moves around clockwise and scans. And if he finds a target in front of him, he starts to fire until there's no target. Then he moves clockwise again and scans. He never moves. Then we
Oh,
have
wow.
Maniac, who's kind of like a random thing. I'm not really sure how he works, but he moves around the board. He scans. Sometimes he runs into the walls on the sides and damages himself. But he does do quite a lot of damage while just running around and shooting. Um, then we have Mover over there. So Mover does pretty much the same as Scanner. Scans going
Hmm.
clockwise and fires if something is in front of him. But if he's hit, he moves away, moves out of the way, and that's what Scanner never does. He just stands still. Then you have there's a guy called Bottom as well. He just moves along the bottom, scans the bottom, and scans at a 90-degree angle and shoots if something's in front of him. And these are of course just programs, simple programs that you can edit and you can write your own new robots, and there's so much to play with here. So let's see. It seems Mover is gonna win this one now because he found Scanner, and Scanner is never gonna get all the way over there and find Mover so before he's
Mm,
dead. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
he's losing damage.
yeah. So
Okay, yeah.
there's a whole. You need the manual to play this game, but I think this is when I'm going to show you the source code of one of the existing. I had some trouble actually getting it loaded, but after a couple of attempts, I will show you the source code of one of the existing robots. And not only can you see the source code, you can edit the source code. There's a debugger built in there. I mean, you can say, I want to watch that register and see what comes in there, and you can step through the program and see how the little robot is performing. So it's pretty amazing, actually. But there is a whole programming language that you need to learn. Your robot is moving on a grid that is, I think, 256 by 256, so you can move
Mm.
him to different positions there. You have a method for scanning, you have a method for shooting, you have simple logical things like if statements, and it's pretty much just the yeah, like assembly programming. So let's
Awesome.
see let's see if I actually, in a second, I'm gonna load. Yeah, here you go. Here we go. So
Holy
now we
cow.
loaded the actual source code for that robot, and we're running a simulation. And all of those registers that you see just changing values up there, they're being watched right now. So you can add which registers you want to trace, right? So you can press T to trace another register. You can set all kinds of stuff here and see what happens, and then you can You can completely build your own robot. I think you have about 150, 160 lines of code that you can teach your robot, and then the whole idea, of course, was to build your own robots, save them out to disk, and load them on your friend's Apple II, and see who wins.
Oh, that is phenomenal.
Mm.
This reminds me. I mean, a few years ago, there's this. I guess it's a yearly thing. This robot competition. They have it in different cities. They had it here nearby in Leipzig about 4 or 5 years ago, and got to see these teams, have these robots go up. They were basically, most of them were playing some version of soccer against one another,
Yeah.
but they had to be pre-programmed, and it was absolutely fascinating to see these robots. Because they'd have different parameters for how to recognize where the ball is and stuff, and sometimes they just do random seeming stuff, but they do it over and over and over again. And so this seems like a version of that. And I guess it really does speak to computers of this era, when people are not buying a computer to run pre-made software off of it. They're really buying a computer to program it. Everybody's making their own stuff. So a game where you have to program,
Yeah.
just makes sense.
This would teach you how to program the machines of that age, because you get straight into something resembling assembly and machine code. So yeah, it's a steep learning curve, but there's actually quite a good manual for this game. So it was definitely doable, but probably not for the young kids, eh?
No, definitely not. This is clearly meant for the nerdy 20-something plus who's making games, that at the same time wants to use those skills for some entertainment.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, but this is phenomenal. And I can never get enough of the wonderful Apple graphics, where suddenly white turns into orange, turns into blue, turns into orange.
Yep.
Oh man. So did you did you actually manage to do any kind of reprogramming at all in your 7 minutes, or was it
No,
just
no.
figuring out what the hell's going on?
It was just playing around with it and figuring out what was going on. And then I had a look at the manual, and I could see that in 7 minutes there was no way in hell that I was going to get anywhere near to programming the stuff. But it definitely looked like something that was doable. And you could just, if I understand this interface correctly, you could load and modify one of the existing robots, and that's probably how you'd start out playing with that.
Oh,
So
definitely, yeah.
just load the guy called random or something like that and start modifying him. So we see bottom here is right. You see he's just moving left to right at the bottom and scanning for every step. Scanning is that little flicker you see. And if
Yeah.
there's something in front of him, he'll shoot right after scanning. So loading his code would, I'm guessing that would be quite easy to understand that code, for example.
That's true, yeah. And then that gives you an idea of what the commands are doing, and then you can just start customizing it a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So I could definitely see myself 40 years ago loading this now. Maybe not 40 years ago because I'd be too young, Carl, but 30 years ago loading this and having a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Silas Warner, and this is the main reason I chose this. There were a couple of action games. I mean, I almost had you play Gobbler, which would have been interesting from a legal history standpoint. We'll talk about it a little bit during the episode, but Silas Warner is one of those characters that needs to be talked about, and his work really, together with Nasir, are like the two big Apple II game developers of the early 80s. And I wanted to have at least one of his games here in the 7 minutes of in Heaven segment. And this seemed like a good idea, especially since I knew I had a developer on for the episode. So this was a good choice.
Indeed. Have fun.
Cool. So can you see yourself coming back to this title, or is it just a little too primitive to spend time with when you have Xenogears waiting for you?
I can actually see myself picking this up at some point. I do have the manual now on my hard drive, so I need to have a look at how to program these. Or at least, as I said, just figure out how to modify the guy called Bottom, because that should be easy.
Yeah. I mean,
I had a bit
Yeah.
of a problem getting into it. I started loading up the editor, which starts you completely from scratch. You can say, I just want to make a new robot, and
Mhm.
I couldn't even figure out how to type anything. And no matter what I typed, nothing happened. But from reading the manual, you need to go into an edit mode by pressing Control A first or something along those lines. So there are some combinations that you need to know how to do as well. So you can't just boot this game and figure out what's going on. You need to read the manual.
Gotcha. Oh, well, it's not unsurprising given the age of the game, and not so unsurprising considering the complexity of the task of the game, but definitely an interesting insight into the world that was.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, let's exit the this video and head back to the episode to talk about it in a audio fashion.
Let's